All right, guys, Brandon Barton here with Emerald Coast Kayak Fishing, and I want to talk to you about the top 5 lures that I have tied on or I keep in my kayak for inshore kayak fishing on the Emerald Coast. I fish out of the Pensacola, Florida area from my kayak, and I'm fishing around docks, grass flats, and the bay system. So I'm going to show you my top 5 lures. And we're going to start off with number 5, and that is going to be the Savage Gear Shrimp. This is the 3-inch. They have a 3-inch, a 5-inch, a couple different sizes, 4-inch. I really like the 3-inch for our area, especially when the water is super clear. This is a really good lure to sight fish, redfish with. So always have one of these in my tackle box or on my kayak, and it works really well. And that's the Savage Gear Shrimp. Number 4 is going to be really any type of paddle tail on a jig head. You can have it on an exposed jig head or a weedless jig head, depending on, how the conditions are. If you're fishing around the grass, if there's a lot of floating grass. But a couple of the lures that I use, knock and tail lures, that's a good paddle tail. Southern Salt Hoodwink, these work really good too. So you can also get some jig heads from them. So all types of jig heads, whether it be the swing jig or a regular exposed jig. So just any type of soft plastic. Also done really well with the Savage Gear Pulse Tail Mullet. This thing is super weedless and it's ultra realistic, so it catches fish really easy. So let's go on to the next one. The next one is going to be number 3, a wake bait. I have fell in love with a wake bait this year. This is the Southern Salt Goat. They come in different sizes. This thing is awesome and it catches redfish. It's got BKK hooks on it, and all you have to do with this lure is pretty much toss it out and just kind of slow reel it in, and it just vibrates right on top of the surface. If you wanted to get it to dive down, you just kind of speed it up a little bit and lower your rod tip down, and it will get just under the surface. If you put your rod tip up in the air and slow it down, it will just go back and forth on the surface. So this thing is really good for covering water and finding redfish. So you can cast it really well, and it doesn't require any twitching of the rod. You just pretty much reel it in, so it's super easy to use. But they hunt this lure down and crush it. So that's going to be number 3. And let's move on to number 2, which is a jerkbait. A jerkbait is one of my almost absolute favorites. That's why it's number 2 lure to use in the saltwater. This is the Rapula XR8. It's a smaller jerkbait, and I actually file the bill down just a hair on this one. So when I jerk it across the shallow flats, it doesn't dive down super deep into the grass and get a bunch of grass on the hook. So I actually keep a couple with the bill filed down and a couple without it. So just depending on how deep of water I'm targeting these fish. This one is a must-have though, and the profile of this is like a little minnow, so it gets absolutely crushed. So jerkbait is definitely going to stay on number 2. Another thing that's great about jerkbait, if you're throwing a topwater and you have a bunch of fish swiping at it or following it and they're not really committing, you can come in behind that topwater with a jerkbait like this, and usually you're going to get bit. So number 1 lure that I keep tied on and that I'm throwing a lot from the kayak is going to be, you guessed it, a topwater lure. This is the One Knocker Spook. I also have the Rapula Skitter Walk. This is a Savage Gear topwater. I also have some Spook Juniors. So just depending on the conditions, what size I'm going to be throwing. If it's super calm and the fish are being kind of spooky, I'm going to downsize to a smaller one. If they're fired up and I know there's some big fish in the area, I'm going to throw the normal size or even a bigger one depending on what I'm targeting. But topwaters are really good in low light conditions, first light, last light. Even on days when it's cloudy. I mean, I've caught fish all throughout the day on topwater. Topwaters are really good search bait. You can really cast them a country mile, and then you give the fish an opportunity to follow that topwater for a long distance before they commit. So these things are really good for finding the fish, covering water, and that's why they're my number 1 for kayak fishing. And if you want to see more videos like this, drop a comment down or just follow me, and I'm going to start making some more. But that's the top 5 lures that I keep on my kayak for inshore fishing for redfish and trout in the Pensacola, Florida area. Peace.